Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. In this video we're breaking down how to interpret Mercury in Taurus, how to use this energy and how to master it, regardless of whether you have Mercury in Taurus in your natal chart or if it's just passing through. So at the time of making this video in 2025, Mercury will go into the sign of Taurus on Saturday, May 10th. While Mercury is in Taurus, it's going to conjunct Uranus on Sunday, May 25th, which is also the very same day that Saturn goes into Aries. And finally, it will leave the sign of Taurus and go into Gemini on May 26th, where it's going to immediately sextile Saturn. This is going to be a clean pass-through without any retrograde motions. So it's a fairly quick transit in 2025 of just over 2 weeks. What we're going to discuss in this video is going to apply to everybody globally for this 2-week-ish period. But of course, if you have Mercury in Taurus in your natal chart, then this is especially applicable to you, and you will have taken these themes a lot further because you have been dealing with them your entire life. So there is a lot more added complexity, and also you've had longer to learn these lessons and to integrate them into your life. So you are a lot further along the way than we are all going to be while we dip our toes in it. Mercury is the messenger planet, named after the Roman god Mercury, or you might know his Greek equivalent, which was Hermes, with the winged sandals, the messenger. Mercury rules our thoughts, communication, short trips, our voice, our speech. Essentially think of it as any kind of quick movement between 2 points, whether these are physical locations or the movement between 2 data points. This is the signature of Mercury. Now, Taurus, the sign which is ruled by Venus, rules love, refinement, beauty, value, sensuality, but it also represents groundedness, slow, steady, and deliberate movement. So when we look at those, the kind of super quick movement between 2 points and the grounded, slow, deliberate pace of Taurus, this might not necessarily be an easy or very, how shall we say, convenient matchup. And because Mercury is a personal planet, so it's very, very close to the Earth, it moves very quickly, it also affects us on a much more personal level. So when there are Mercury transits, they usually hit very close to home. They manifest in situations that are personal, that relate either only to us personally or to our very close circle of friends, family, and acquaintances, as opposed to the more generational planets like Pluto, Neptune, etc., which affect us on a much more global, community-based level, where we see shifts in society as a whole. But of course, that also means that we gain the most benefit out of mastering the energy of the personal planets because they are so directly influential on our lives. So there are a few things to look out for with Mercury being in Taurus. Number one is we can have a tendency to stubbornly cling to our opinion, to be very slow to pivot and change our minds. This has its benefits and it's got its downsides, obviously, like every single placement in the zodiac and like every single personality trait. Taurus moves slow and deliberately. It's like a giant freighter ship in the ocean where it's got so much power and energy behind it, but it's very slow to move and very slow to maneuver around obstacles. And this can make us a little bit fixed in our minds and fixed in our ideas and downright stubborn. Most people with any planets in Taurus, but especially the personal planets, do have a bit of a stubborn tendency. And it's usually not news to them either. They're usually very, very aware of this tendency. Another thing to watch out for is that social interactions could become a little more tiring or exhausting, especially if you do consider yourself more on the introvert spectrum rather than being an extrovert. And that's because our thoughts and our words are just a lot slower to process. And so it just takes that extra little bit of energy to get our thoughts out and to communicate them in the right way, which is something that is very important while Mercury is in Taurus, and which we will touch upon later on in this video. The other thing to look out for is that if we are in a position where we are bombarded with huge amounts of data and information, which is pretty much everybody these days, then all of this information coming in can become a lot more overwhelming just because we are slower to process it. We want to take our time. We are a lot more thorough. And in the meantime, while we are processing message 1 and 2, messages 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are already stacking up, and that can get quite exhausting and quite overwhelming. But of course, there are also plenty of opportunities with this placement of Mercury in Taurus for everybody while Mercury is in Taurus, but especially for those of you who have Mercury in Taurus in your natal chart. Number 1 is preparation. Mercury in Taurus gives us a certain mental stamina and persistence, and it allows us to look at anticipated problems ahead of time and grind them down with persistence, with going at them from every possible angle over and over and over again until we are satisfied that we are able to handle any obstacle that is in our way. This grounded earth energy gives us a really good sense of practicality and realism. And if you have Mercury in Taurus in your natal placement, then please, please, please do not fight that. This is one of your key strengths: preparation, being able to anticipate issues, and understanding what you need to do to be prepared for the journey ahead. This is such an undervalued skill, because when you don't need it, then people will tell you to rush, and people will tell you to hurry up, and you're overthinking things, and you don't need to do this and that. But then when it comes push to shove, and you are the one who is prepared, everyone relies on you and everybody needs you to be that person. So please don't fight it. Please don't let people rush you. Take the time that you need. As long as you're happy with that, this is a very, very valuable skill to have. When Mercury is in Taurus, this is also a fantastic time for any kind of financial reviews. Taurus rules value and beauty and refinement. So we are very good at spotting things or people that add value to our lives and allows us to be quite savvy with our investments. Again, Taurus energy has this grounded quality which allows us to see our financial situation quite realistically, but not as harshly as the other two earth signs. So for example, Capricorn will look at finances in quite a... It's got this achiever mode essentially, where it always wants more, where it wants to build and build and build and climb higher and higher and higher, like the goat that represents the sign of Capricorn. Whereas Virgo is very detail oriented and can get lost in the details a little bit and be quite critical of every single detail. Taurus has more of a realistic but balanced and grounded approach. It does have this tendency to splurge on the good things in life, but you know, as long as that is something that is actively enriching your life and it's not getting you into any trouble down the line, then there isn't really a problem with that. Enjoy. Money is there to be enjoyed, as is life. And those who have a natal placement of Mercury in Taurus usually have a fantastic eye for antiques, for art, for furniture, for great investments that appreciate in value over time. This is also a great time for deep learning. Our minds become very thorough, and this allows us to better grasp complex information, though not at a quick glance, that would be more of a Mercury in an air sign quality, but through repetition, through going over it again and again and again, and then thus retaining this information very, very well. People who naturally have Mercury in Taurus have excellent memories a lot of the time. They are able to retain this information very, very well. So this is a really good time to read perhaps a more challenging book, whether that's fiction or non-fiction, or to take up a course. Ideally something that is very hands-on, because Taurus has this sensuality aspect to it, where you will be able to retain the information even better if you can get hands-on practice, if you can get visual cues, audio cues, and involve as many senses as possible. Common sense is enhanced. During these 2 or so weeks, we all get a boost of common sense, of practical, grounded, realistic thinking. It makes it really pleasant to communicate with people on projects, because everybody sees more eye to eye and is able to focus on that what matters and focus on that which is important. This is also a fantastic opportunity to refine your communication style, especially if you are somebody who, essentially thinks out loud. You have to say things out loud in order to think them, but then everybody has heard you and you might not have gotten the message across that you really wanted to get across. With Mercury in Taurus, there is this delay between our thoughts and what comes out of our mouths. And that allows us to really pay attention to how we word things, how we express things. It adds a layer of beauty and refinement to our words and our communication style, which makes people who are born with Mercury in Taurus very, very pleasant conversation partners. They are really deliberate with what they say and how they communicate things. And we all get to tap into that energy for some time during this transit to add more value to the words that we speak out loud. Some things to try during this transit while Mercury is in Taurus. For one, meditation. This is the perfect time to either dip your toes into some meditation or deepen an already existing practice. Our minds slow down, we naturally become more present, and we naturally find a lot more pleasure in noticing the small, beautiful details of everyday life. And it also doesn't really have to be anything formal where you sit down and you set a timer for a certain amount of time. Think of those hazy late spring days when Mercury is naturally in Taurus, where you can just sit outside and literally just stare at nature around you and just take in the sky and the sunshine and the birds and the flowers, and you're just naturally content sitting there and being present with nature. That's the energy of Mercury in Taurus, and that's something that we all get to tap into. This is also a great time to start journaling about any kind of long-term financial or money plans, to really get your thoughts out and to start building something that is solid and that is lasting. And remember that if you are trying to manifest more money and improve your finances in your life, then that all starts with valuing yourself. So have a little think. Do some journaling, do some writing on how you are valuing yourself, where you could be valuing yourself higher, where are you underselling yourself or to those people around you, and how can you value yourself higher in order to bring more joy and fulfillment and abundance into your life. So use this time for preparation, but don't get stuck in it. So don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. If you start to feel stuck, that means it's time to move on. And don't forget that after Taurus, Mercury moves into Gemini, the sign that Mercury rules. And at that point, our thoughts are going into hyperdrive. It's like being slingshotted, essentially. That transition is quite harsh. So especially for those of you who have Mercury and Taurus in your natal chart, it can be a bit difficult to get going sometimes. So work with these transits to help give you a leg up essentially and give you a little bit of that boost to get going. Because once you're going, you are going. There is no stopping you. So cherish this preparation phase, enjoy it, but don't get too attached to the comfort. This is a very comfortable time, but obviously we don't just want to sit in our comfort zone, because what happens when you don't venture out of your comfort zone is your comfort zone shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And all of a sudden the things that you did used to enjoy become unenjoyable, and you don't want to be in that situation. Also, what's significant about this year's Mercury and Taurus transit is that it is so closely linked to Saturn. There is a lot of overlap with Saturn also moving into Aries. And this really indicates that we are preparing for a long journey ahead. We are preparing for some big shifts in our lives. So enjoy this time. Just be ready to move on when it's time to move on. So, do you have Mercury and Taurus in your natal chart? Or are you feeling the mental shift with Mercury moving into Taurus? Let me know in the comments and let's have a conversation about it. And if you would like some personalized insights into this placement and many, many others in your natal chart, then you can book a consultation with me through the link that I'm going to leave in the description box for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please don't forget to like and subscribe for more practical, down-to-earth astrological content.